Awesome. All right, let's get started. We have an awesome topic today.
Yeah.
We may or may not have kind of chatted over dinner last night
Of
about
course
what
we
we were going
did.
to talk about. And it is, I think, something really, what we've seen when we look at challenges in both our jobs, it is really the core of a lot of, the stress in buying and also remodeling. So if anyone's been following along, I'm here with my wife, Sarah Perrotti, realtor and broker.
Regency Real Estate.
There we go. Love it.
Yeah,
And we are all things real estate.
we are.
From our own real estate portfolio to, Fine Home Contracting being a remodeling company, and then you just like buying, selling, and managing our real estate. So
Yeah.
the topic of today is, I'll let you throw it out there.
Well, I think it's like a general, theme or topic, whatever you want to call it, but it's about like kind of staying in your lane, right? Whatever that lane is for you. But in this context, we're talking about budget.
So kind of like buying and selling a house within your means and remodeling within your means. So not trying to you're trying to force the energy to be something more than you currently are.
Yeah. And I think, this is an easier thing. I think it's probably not that we can't talk about selling, which we can, but in terms of buying, right? And I think we want to be clear that it does not matter the budget. Do you know what I mean? Like it just doesn't. It could be as large of a budget as somebody could possibly have, but that like concept runs through, and it's very, very important and vital that we educate our clients, right, about it and help them to understand fully. But I'll let you kind of jump into that.
Yeah,
in
so
terms of
on the remodeling side, it is trying to force too much work done with a too low of a budget. So
can you give like a quick example?
Yeah, I mean, we see this all the time. Well, I want to remodel because I want something new. But you haven't set aside enough money to actually do it right, or hire the right company, or have the budget for those really fine details that make the project. And we see this. And, when you talk about not, it doesn't matter the budget. Listen, we work with high-end clients, and if it's a $2 million budget, it's still $2 million.
Yeah, right.
But if they're trying
you still
to
have like a threat. Everybody has a cap. It doesn't matter how big the project is, little, fancy, luxury. Everybody has a idea of what they're going to spend.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's maybe, for remodeling, it can be like, if you have the budget, maybe you have to adjust the scope down, and maybe if it's a full house remodel, do the kitchen, don't do the bathroom right now, and don't try to fit that bathroom in, and cut costs, and cut the it's like, well, I won't bring an interior designer in so I can save money. Well, that interior designer is going to make all the fine details. Or I don't want custom cabinets because I can save money by the box cabinets. And now, I mean, and if anyone follows us on social, like, it's all those little details of custom cabinets.
When you walk, when I walk in, right, from either I'm selling a house, what doesn't matter. I walk into a home, and you and I do this all the time. We do it whether we're staying in a vacation rental, whether we're in a really nice hotel. You feel it. When we were looking to buy our own home, when you walk in and that paint is just the finish,
It's
you talk about drywall finish. Every single everything
And
has
then,
been done.
yeah.
And again, you could have it at a moderate, high, luxury, ultra luxury price range when it's been done right from soup to nuts, because there's a difference, and we could talk
Right.
about this from the.
Or
Do you ever
having
go into like a mechanical room and like the best part about the house is like pretty? I call them like pretty mechanicals, like.
Yeah.
The electrical box is just, and everything from the littlest detail
Yeah.
is so great.
And on the flip side, you walk in and the homeowner's painted, and it's just like,
And-
nails on a
but
chalkboard
you
for
could
anybody
have
that is in tune to it.
100%. But you could have, like, for example, like beautiful cabinets, and then you could like have the poles that so I think the other, like, there's multiple like summaries that we'll get to, but one of them is, okay, if you're gonna, to your point, spend the money, you can't go half.
Right.
You can't go half and expect the full result, right? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think it's, when we were kind of talking about this, is like, well, how do we really dive into, and there's people that are buying out of anxiety, or buying to try to like get this, they need a 10,000 square foot house, but they only have a budget for 5,000 square foot, or somebody's trying to get a new kitchen before. And there's a different energy when working with people saying, listen, I'm going to refer to you as the expert. This is my budget. Can you put me into can you put me where that budget fits, so it's done right or it's bought right? Because, right, you can talk about this.
100%. And what I've started, this new phrase that I've adapted, is understand the assignment, right? I want to work with clients, no matter who they are, that understand the assignment, which it's about quality construction, right? Because we can remodel if they choose, right? You could change the paint if you choose. But land quality and making sure that whatever bucket you're in, budget-wise, that you get it. Right? It's about getting it. And it's, to your point, it's not about forcing it. It's not about, because it's a different feel. It's a different feel of like, almost like Keeping Up with the Joneses, right? When you see,
you're trying to get into that neighborhood.
Yeah, like, and you're like desperate for it, but you're not, maybe you're not there yet, which is fine. So what I talk to people about is like, okay, cool. You're trying to get into X, but you also want it to be the best it could be, right? Because everybody wants a really nice house. So we have choices.
And we walk into these, and we have so do you too, though, but we really have this inside look of society. And being in people's homes, it's very intimate. And we'll walk in to those neighborhoods of these houses, and they're just beautiful. And they're just,
gorgeous.
And you can tell people forced themselves into there, and you walk in the house and you're like, there's a reason why the shades are drawn. These people cannot afford the neighborhood, and now they're trying to get something remodeled. They don't have the money. So, and that starts with the buying.
It does. And one of the things that I think is important too, because money is an aspect, but when you're forcing something, it steals the joy from that thing. Like, let's be clear. Buying a house is super stressful. It's the top 3 most stressful things that people can do in their life. Again, budget aside, let's pretend, set the money aside. But when you're going through the process, you could really have fun with it, right? Like you can really embrace the experience. I love, obviously, what I do. And my clients and I get along, good, bad, and different. Like, the rocky points, of course, in a transaction occur. But it's fun. It's exciting. And like, when you turn that key, right? You're at the closing table, just like this table, and it's so exciting and fancy, and we're taking pictures, maybe popping a bottle of champagne, right? It's this feeling of elation, of accomplishment, of joy. And if you're, for whatever reason, trying to, which I don't work with people, and it has nothing to do with finances, more so than, did you understand the assignment?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to sound like a broken
record. Do they
record.
value it, or is the energy aligned?
Yeah, the energy, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're forcing something, that means there's a lot of anxiety and stress behind that thing that you're not getting, you're not understanding. And again,
and you're sitting down at the closing table still stressed out because you know you don't have enough money in the bank to fix the house that you're about to buy.
And you're also like, you're adding so much stress because in your mind, I talk to buyers all the time. Again, regardless of budget, you can be qualified, right, for X amount of money. Just because you're qualified for it doesn't mean you need to spend it.
Or you should, because you're qualified for that price. There's a huge portion of how well the house has been maintained.
100%.
So you can buy that $1 million house that still needs $300,000-$400,000 of just to keep up with a new roof. The septic can be $40,000 or $50,000. Windows.
Forget about aesthetics.
Right.
These are
things,
the vital parts of a home.
And when you get into a 5,000 or 3,000 square foot home, heating systems aren't $10,000. They're $25,000, $40,000, $30,000, $40,000. That if you've come in with what you're qualified to spend, you need a couple hundred in the.
100.
So you can't rely on the mortgage company to tell you what kind of home you should have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just trying to get that because that's going to be a good clip that we're going to cut out. That's going to be like the.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Going to be the thumbnail.
No, but that's hysterical.
Yeah.
No, but it's true. And one of the things too, again, we talked about, I believe it was our first episode, the importance of trusted lenders, trusted realtors, because for me, I'll speak for myself and my trusted lenders, it's not about getting you done. Right? I want you at the closing table well after, joyful, filled with as much joy as that transaction could bring, right? Excitement, elation, all of the good things. And
kind of with the feeling of, I made a good decision because it was informed and we had all of the information.
100%. And I'll tell you, there's also times where I have walked into, for buyers in many different capacities, I do like pre-walkthroughs. I've walked into $1 million+ homes that have had interesting finishes, not in a good way, meaning the quality of construction was simply not there. So again, having a true understanding. The other thing is you want a quality of life, right? You and I, we like to go on vacation. We like to eat nice food. We, you want to be able to afford whatever in your life you want to do, right? Our dog, he gets fancy grooming and all this stuff, right?
Yeah, the whole office is like, where's Blue?
Yeah, he's at grooming. That sounds about right. Yeah. It's like a regular
and he
schedule.
comes in all fluffy. Everybody
and
wants to pet him.
And we love our groomer. And But we're digressing. My point is that, buying a home when you're staying in your lane and an informed choice. I think that's what it is too, right? It's to your point, like, I forget how you just phrased it. Something like all the information.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think it's fluid, right? And I'm not like, I think this is a little bit of a plug for you as a good realtor, but it is.
Thank you.
It's a constant doing, right?
Yeah.
So it's every single property that you go and look at is in a different assessment.
Yep.
So you can walk in and say, hey, this is going to need this, this, and this in the future.
Yeah.
Or, this one, I know you should maybe find something that has less square footage, but the finishes are a little bit better, because right now it's big, you love it, but this is a ton of maintenance for the lawn. Or it has the entire front of the house is this waterfront. You're gonna have to rebuild that
Right.
retaining wall. That's like $300,000 or $400,000
Yeah.
down the road. Why don't you move down to a smaller house so you can that already has that stuff done?
Well, and that's the other point in terms of buying too, right? It gets back to the starting. What are you valuing?
Mm-hmm.
What do you need, right? Let's start with qualified. Okay, what do you want to, where do you want to spend your money,
Mm-hmm.
right? So sometimes that goes back to like zip code, right?
Mm-hmm.
And pros and cons
Right.
of each, potential zip code or town or city that we're talking about. So then we get back to like, let's start at the very beginning and figure out how we can best kind of like, it's building the idea and then like going out, right? It's like build it and they will come.
Yeah, and we talk about this all
Yeah.
the time. Like, obviously, if a school system is really important for people that have kids. However, if you don't have kids, you might want to say, suck it up and maybe say you live in a different town than you want, but you can get the house you really want because that town next to the town is
Yeah.
a lot better. It's more friendly.
Well, and
in the budget.
but
budget
I
range.
think that's where it is too, is like I'll speak for myself. The whole like suck it up thing, that's not the vibe in terms of,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like,
gotcha.
it's just, and it's not that you're wrong because you're right, but it's in terms of like, okay, let's talk about the alignment, right? Like goals, quality construction. And I say this probably every day, especially in most client meetings, I'm talking about it, going through and like, again, when you're renovating the, I don't know, kitchen.
Yeah.
And then they decide at the end, when do people pick appliances in a kitchen?
So that's a really good question. Appliances actually have to be picked before we even start the design of the
Oh,
kitchen.
there
So
you
there's a little
go.
tip, for people out there.
That's like a whole new podcast episode.
Yeah.
And I want to go down there.
Yeah.
But I was trying to think of like, give me an example of something picked at the end. Or
countertops can be done a little bit later. Backsplash can be done a little bit later.
So let's just stick with this, and we'll do a whole episode on it. But for the sake of this explanation, I am sure you have encountered people like me, people like us. I have a knack. You may or may not love to know this. Well, you know it, but of like picking out the most expensive thing without even trying. Like, I could look at a magazine or look at, like a display and just be like, that looks great. And it happens, and it just does.
Right.
But if people are maxing at the beginning of the reno, and then they see, like, for example, something gets opened up and, you have an overage, which happens all the time because you're not like Superman, right, even though I think you're pretty close. But, you have overages, and then all of a sudden they're at their budget and beyond, and now they're stressed, right? Now it's time to pick out let's just pretend the countertops, the backsplash.
And now they will go with laminate instead of quartz.
Or it's just that, like, that look.
Yeah.
That's like that one step down from the look that really was going to be the wow factor. And like they buy the base.
Yeah.
The bottom line
cheaper
granite
one is
or
the ones
something.
that no one wants.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, in terms of buying, it's certainly important, but for you too, in terms of like
it's the remodeling side of it is there's a lot of stuff that goes on where you should just do it right from the beginning. So I would say the stuff that even behind the scenes stuff is like, say you're going to do bathrooms are a really big remodel, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
With a lot of people do bathroom remodels. They need bathroom remodels. However, in Connecticut, I mean, there's so many old houses, and it could have the original plumbing.
Right.
It could have, a lot of times it's cast iron. That's a whole podcast just to talk about plumbing and cast iron and lead pipes.
Yep.
And, galvanized.
Yeah.
So people are trying to be, they need to remodel, but they're not going to put all the new plumbing in.
Yeah.
And that's what we do, right? So we're going to go in and just it is new plumbing from the bathroom down into the basement.
Yeah.
Because that's the right way to do it. We're not going to deal, so if you
The
can't,
value,
if you can't do that, don't wait until you can.
Or
so
no,
that
you
it's
mean
done
wait.
right.
You're saying, you said don't wait, but you meant wait
Exactly.
till you can.
Wait till you can to do it right.
100%.
Don't go with the guy that's not going to do that.
Yeah.
Because now you're just going to have problems. Because now you've got that brand new shower that you got to open up because it's leaking.
I know. And again, from the perspective, it's such an interesting, we talk about this all the time. Again, I think that we could go on like 12 different thousand podcasts up, and we are, to be clear, we are. But it's something that you can't see, so people don't value it, right? But the inner workings of a home, as a realtor, as a buyer's agent, and frankly, as a seller's agent, I'm trying to highlight these things, right, from a seller's perspective. How great the mechanicals are, how updated things have been. But that's the bones of a house. That's what I care most about as a realtor.
Right.
Especially a buyer's agent. I want to know. People say brand new roof, and I'm like, okay, great. But has it been stripped down? Is everything new?
Right.
Or is it another layer? Right?
Which
it's
voids
an important
the warranty
thing
on the shingles.
Oh my gosh, and it drives me nuts.
Well, we went with the cheaper,
but
heating system, and the guy came in and he was good, but he didn't size it properly.
Yeah.
So your system runs a bit more than it
should.
So now you should have 20 or 30 year life expectancy. You actually only have 10.
Yeah.
There's so
much in there. So much. And again, I don't want to get into, don't want to get into the weeds, although we could.
Got 8 minutes.
Oh my.
Yeah.
All right.
It goes that quick.
Okay. My head is spinning.
Within the means, buying within your means, remodeling within your means, it takes the stress out of it.
Well,
it
not totally.
Not totally.
Let's be clear,
Yeah.
not totally, because remodeling is stressful.
Yes, I
living
agree.
in it, especially, is stressful. If you're, some people can't even live with it, depending on how big the project is, right? You're living wherever, second home, wherever you are.
Right.
That's stressful, as it is.
Right.
Pushing it. That's the conclusion. Pushing it.
The best thing is we always say contingent. We always tell somebody to put 10% aside for contingency. But going into and saying, you know what, I have the money to do X, but I'm going to do Y, which is just a little bit more, I feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Because then if you really, you go to those showrooms and you find that soaking tub that you love, you can calmly
and confidently
and with the enjoyment
of
yes, you know
joy.
What, I love this, and it's what I've saved, we put it all this, it's gonna work, and it's not well, is it on sale?
Yes, I need a coupon,
and then well, let's go back to the contractor and get it done cheaper.
Yeah, it's a different feel.
Yes.
And this is the education around it that we're just trying, again, the whole point of this episode, but also for our clients. Right? This is what the energy that we work with.
And
this
kind
is
of
who
kind
we
of
are.
what it was is just what we will only work with in the future, which is a little. That's
this
a little.
Is a boundary.
Yeah,
no,
it's a boundary
because it's something that there's joy in the work that we do. Right.
It's a lot of fun.
We're having a great time.
Yeah.
obviously not all the time is it butterflies and rainbows, but generally we love what we do, right? So we want to have the people that understand this it's just a concept, right? And it's just a different like feel. It's a different vibe, and it's so exciting to talk about this stuff because I'm like already podcast episodes are like there's so much.
There's so much.
There's
We're
so much.
We're gonna have 100 episodes before we know it.
Easily.
Another analogy, I think, because we talked about this last night. Another analogy is, the people that want to, living within your means again, but for any car people out there, getting the Lexus, but you're getting the baseline Lexus that has the roll up windows because it says Lexus. Instead of buying a Toyota Camry,
which I'm not a car person, but
with all the whistles and bells, and
100%.
Really enjoying with the leather seats and everything. And knowing like, hey, this car is a good car. I got the things that I needed, but I didn't try to like get too flashy. I'm like, it's just somebody that's centered and gets it. Warren Buffett, drives a Ford Taurus.
Yeah.
It's
and again, just to be clear, it's it doesn't matter the budget.
Right. It doesn't. Right.
You know what I mean? Like it really does. Like it's the. Okay, let's define the goal. What is the, and from a buyer's perspective, it starts way before we go out, right? This is a conversation way before we start. And one of the biggest things I say to people is, let's see if you and I are aligned. Like let's make sure that our energy, our vibe, we're on the same page of, do we all understand the assignment,
we've started now that, I'm interviewing the clients before we even go out on site visits to just try to get a feel where they're at.
Yeah. And again, like and it's not good or bad.
Right.
It's, are we matching? Like, are you matching?
Are we all going to have fun in this?
100%. And I think that's just so incredibly important is like, understand the quality construction, make sure that you know what the goals are.
And it, honestly, anybody that's in small business or is a service out there, that sounds scary because, when we're right in December right now, and, things get a little slow. Everybody's, kind of concentrating on Christmas and the holidays, holidays in general. And, there's a lot of people that, are out there. We sing for our supper, and you can start to feel like, like a little nervous by saying no to clients.
Well, and again,
but the key thing is that a lot of clients shouldn't be doing stuff, and they definitely shouldn't be doing it with you because it just doesn't align. They can go and do it, but for it to stay where it is, knowing that through your process, it becomes fun and successful. And staying there,
right, exactly,
and not allowing yourself to be pulled in a direction.
Yeah, 100%. Because we need to stay steady. Right, as professionals, as guides. Stay
in the lane.
Let's stay in our lane and hold true to our principles.
Right.
Which this is essentially one of our principles, right? Like we're not going to. We know who we are. We're continuing on our own journey, right? But in terms of business, we really understand where, like, our place. Right?
And that takes time, though. That takes time. And that takes a lot of bumps in the road.
And again, I'm not saying we're, of course, there's always room. Right? However, we're demonstrating that. Right? Like, we're good with who we are. We know
and we're getting there. And I'm really proud of us. And we're wrapping up on the 2 minutes here, but we were kind of put in front of a really big opportunity for us. And it was just like, hey, that doesn't seem like that fits within what we want to do in the future. And I think that was a lot of growth of like,
and I think that one might be kind of a good,
a whole other episode.
This is our issue, is that we, this is no different, by the way. It's just that there's cameras and some lights on. Well, guess we don't have as many lights on.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, too many lights. It's too bright in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the way that we talk. This is no different on our walks at home. But yeah, like we're like digressing a little bit.
So let's
wrap it up.
What did we learn?
The conclusion.
What's the conclusion? What did we learn?
All right. So the conclusion for me, particularly with the buyers, is to really understand the goal of the transaction, of like what the buyer is trying to do, meaning quality construction, size home, with being comfortable. Right? Comfortable, secure with the decision, aligned, but they're also able to like live their best lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And go about it. So it takes the going through a transaction from a buyer's perspective with as much ease. I say that in kind of like quotes because again, it is stressful. Let's be clear.
Yep.
With ease and joy.
Yep. And in remodeling, it's, maybe waiting or foregoing something to do until you can do it right. And do it with all the details that really make it. It's just gonna feel good for years to come.
Yeah.
And you're not having to redo it a couple weeks later, or So it's kind of just slow down a little bit.
Yeah. Take a breath and
take a breath
and give it some thought, and make sure that you're surrounding yourself with professionals that are willing to. To say the hard thing.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's close it at that.
Yeah.
Awesome podcast. We'll be,
awesome.
Stay tuned for the other ones.
Yeah.
And thanks
great.
for coming on.
Anytime.
All right, guys. So in 30 minutes, we have Dwayne Barney, president of Business Blueprint. So that's going to be
that's exciting.
a fun episode. I think we got a lot to talk about. He has, a ton of experience too. So that's going to be fun. And then, you're coming back.
I am.
For
a little later on.
A little bit later on.
Cool.
With Stephanie.
I am.
Yeah. So
looking forward to it.